Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be finishing up our series on X-Plane 12, the Cirrus 22, with how to take off, land, and fly traffic patterns with it. This is a very, very high performance aircraft, but there are a lot of fun little tricks I've found to make it a little bit easier to get this thing back on the ground. Let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do a regular traffic pattern with a regular landing. Nothing exciting. I got my traffic pattern altitude locked into my FMS, ready to go. I've got my one click of flaps. I'm going to pop on the boost pump in case anything goes bad. We got a landing light on. The party is ready to start. So the first thing you need to remember about this plane, which is one of the tricky things, is we do not have a steerable nose wheel. So one of the tricks I like to do to make it a little bit easier to get in the air is I actually leave it at idle and I line up with the runway and I don't touch the brakes. So what I do is I give it a little bit of power, catch it, and then I go ahead and stomp on the power like that. Now this aircraft is definitely a high performance beast. This thing is incredible. So we're going to get up to our taxi speed. There's a 65 knots, I should say. Rotate. We're going to pull the nose up, and we're going to hold about 7.5 to 10 degrees right about here. And now you can see here, we're not making full power at 91% power. Theoretically, we could get up to 100% power if we play with the mixture, but we don't need to. The first big chore we have to worry about is our flaps. If you take this aircraft into the air without flaps, you're going to cry a little because it's going to be quite a process. So we're waiting for about 500 feet. Now here comes the first trick. When you put up your flaps, go ahead and grab your trim up and hold the trim up button as you hit the flaps. Ta-da! You will notice if you held the trim up button, you are now suddenly doing 101 knots as fast as you can snap your fingers, and you barely had to do anything. You didn't even feel it when the flaps went up. That's just some fancy flying there. So we've got 900 feet there. I'm going to go ahead and execute my right turn. I'm also going to bring my throttle back a lot. You can see I brought it back to about 50% power. The reason I've done that, again, is because this thing is going to go bang right past its basically target here. And we're trying to keep our speed within 1,000, not 1,000, that'd be nice. Keep the speed within 100 knots, and we're also trying to keep our altitude at about 1,000. So one of the things you probably notice, let me see, whoa, see if I can zoom in a little bit so you can see it a little better, is you'll notice there's that green flight path vector right there, and that's telling us where our airplane is. If you can keep that little circle with the wings right on that white line that represents the horizon, you don't go up, you don't go down. The other thing you'll notice is if you look above it, where we have our lovely little, kind of looks like yellow echelon kind of a thing, like a chevron, that thing is basically telling us where our nose is pointed. If you keep that nice and parallel with its bar on one of those attitude markers, I can't zoom in any harder because, again, I'd have to freeze time here, you will be able to go ahead and execute smooth turns without ever thinking about it. And that's one of the things I love about this plane. All right, let's go ahead and swing to the right a little bit here. Get ourselves all nice and lined up. Once you're established in the pattern, you want to look for a speed of about 100 knots, and you want to get that first click of flaps in immediately. So I'm going to bring that first click of flaps, and I'm going to push the nose onto the horizon. Push the nose, push the nose. There we go. And you will notice this aircraft slows down like crazy. I can put my power at about 25% here. Start trimming. I can't say this enough. This is a trim plane. You can already see I got 100 feet off of that without even trying. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself some downward trim. We're going to settle to the left. We're about ready to start our descent. Yep, it's time to start our descent. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the throttle back a little bit. And what you're looking for is about 500 feet per minute between 450 and 500 and a speed of around 90 knots. 90 knots is kind of the sweet spot because it's just fast enough to keep you out of trouble, but it's also in a situation where you're not going to be taking 45 minutes, kind of thing like that. So we're going down, like I said, about 450 feet per minute. You can see my power is like 8%. This thing is so incredibly aerodynamic. And what I'm looking for here is that lovely 45-degree angle, which is right there. Now I'm going to go ahead and take a nice gentle turn to the right here. There's a little beep to remind me that we've got a few feet to go. And again, keeping it around 90 knots. Take advantage of the fact that in the bottom right corner here, you can see the fact that I can see where the airport is, a nice feature of the G1000 there. So it makes it really easy. Now you're sitting here going, but sir, what about your last click of flaps? Isn't that required? I don't know why you say that, but it could be if you wanted. But the key thing here is I save the landing flaps until we're ready to land. That's something that comes out of the Cirrus books, that comes out of other pilots who fly these. The reason being is when those flaps come down, the nose is going to pitch up very aggressively, and you're going to gain about 100 feet. You'll see what I mean when we turn final here. It's actually pretty cool to watch. All right, there's my 90 knots, and you can see here we are low. Oh no, we're low. Whatever shall I do? What you'll do is put down your next click of flaps. Oh no, I'm too low. It's 4 red. I'm going to be dead. And ta-da! As you can see, the flaps instantly set us to 80 knots. And you'll also notice that we are exactly on glide path. basically as fast as you can snap your fingers. That is one of the neat quirks about this plane, is that extra lift you're going to get from that last click of flaps is a lot. So now what you want to do is get yourself going about 80 knots. And I got a bit of a crosswind here today, so I'm going to be kind of fiddling around with the rudder pedals as I kind of line myself up here. Pick a point on the runway. For me, it's the giant number 2, and we're just going to kind of center that on some point on our little dashboard here. Looks good. For the flare, you're going to pull the throttle back and the nose at the same time. I'm going to get a little lower. All right. Going to pull throttle back, pull nose up at the same time. And you're going to lift up. And what you need to do is really pull that nose up. Pull that nose up. There you go, right there. And there's our lovely touchdown. I'm going to bring up one click of flaps, apply full power, and I'm going to gently wait for the nose to pull left, and then I'm going to gently apply right rudder. We're going to give it a nice little tug, and we are airborne once again. So as you can see, there's a couple little quirks for this plane immediately. One thing you probably observed was that last bit of flaps since to launch you into the sky. For those of you who are doing instrument approaches with this plane, you just have to be wary of that. Like, you can't slow down to 80 and then put the flaps down. Otherwise, you're going to have to stand on the throttle. Otherwise, like I said, you're going to have some attitude adjustment. That's kind of a fun way to look at it. 500 feet. We're going to go ahead and hold the trim. Wait for the flaps to catch. And just like that, if you just hold it right at 10 degrees, you can see we go spiking up to 101 knots, which is our VY, effortlessly. All right, we'll go ahead and give ourselves a nice little left turn here and start our turn a little bit early this time. 5 degrees, or I should say 10 degrees, is a really, really good amount if you're looking for absolute performance. Obviously, on hot days, remember 310 air-cooled horsepower, so you got to be careful. All right, I'm going to pull the throttle to about half. I'm going to bring the nose down. And we're going to square off here, our crosswind leg. And we're going to enjoy a nice little 1,000 feet drop there. And I'm going to go ahead and pull the crosswind leg just about this. Again, one of my buddies always makes jokes about the Cirrus approach here, but I understand it. It's a very, very fast plane. I understand why. So we're going to go and swing into our downwind leg, and you can see we're a little too fast here. And a little too fast is bad. The reason that's a problem for us is when we go to engage our flaps, as you noticed last time, it has a really bad tendency to kind of make us balloon. That's just going to be kind of one of the funs there. There we go. Go ahead and square ourselves off. We're going to go ahead and reduce power even more. We'll come down to like 20%. We'll bring that click of flaps in, push that nose down, push the nose down, push the nose down, push the nose down, nose down, nose down. And as I promised, you will start slowing down. Again, like I said, about 100 to 90 knots is fine for the traffic pattern. It's going to be dependent on things like traffic and air traffic control, but you really want to start getting that trim in there for about 90 knots. It's going to make your next part of your flight much simpler. All right, it's about 90 knots. I'll go ahead and bring in a little tiny bit of power. And again, my trim is perfect. I don't have to touch anything right now. I can just go. Looking out the window, this is a much more controlled approach than our last effort was. Looks good. Again, nice and stable. We're drifting a little to the airport here. Like I said, that wind is still there. All right, a little nose up. Okay, well, like I said, about 1,000 feet. And I can look out my right side there on my G1000 display that it is very clear that I'm abeam the numbers. I can also visually confirm, what you always want to do. Looks good. Pull the throttle back. We're going to push the nose down. Like I said, about 500 feet per minute. Hold about 90 knots. And again, you could go all the way down to 85 or 86 or something like that if you had to. But generally, 90 knots is fine at about 500 feet per minute. You don't need that much power to descend with this thing. That's, again, it's such an unbelievably aerodynamic airplane. All right, look at my right wing here. Looks good. We're about ready to square off. 90 knots, perfect. Looking one more time, and that is perfect. Now, we're a little bit further out this time. So I'm going to be careful in my turn here. I'm going to try to keep that flight path marker on the same spot on the screen. There we go. Still, like I said, about 90. We've got to fiddle with the throttle a little bit, but not too much. Again, aerodynamics are on your side with this plane. You're not fighting it. It's not high drag like a 182. All right, come on out of that real quick. I'm going to go take a look out my right window. Whoa, sorry about that. Very hard to see through that wing, but that's okay. And we're going to get ready. We're a little low, so I'm going to bring in a little more power. And we're going to go ahead and bring it to final. Now, if I am correct, we should be a little low. All right, swinging to final, and we are actually, we're not bad. We're not bad. Get 90 knots, and now we're going to get ready for our landing. Just like last time, we're going to take advantage of the goofy flaps here. Come final, I'm going to go ahead and press the flaps. And your brain is now going, wait, you've made a mistake. The runway's over there. What are you doing? I'm landing on the grass. This aircraft is rated for soft field landings. It's got a kind of obnoxious thing that it does, though. Again, there you can see I'm a little high already. Pretty quickly, we're getting our 80 knots in here. You want a little bit of speed when you're doing a soft field landing. Our flaps are as far down as they can. We're taking advantage of it. The key thing here is to imagine the ground as a big angry spike strip. And if you visualize it that way, you realize how little time you really want to make contact with it. So what we're going to do here is we're going to kill our power, and as we transition to a flare, we're actually going to bring power back in. So there we go. We're going to transition into a flare just like this, and I'm going to push the throttle forward just a little bit. And what you want to do here is just an audible increase of power. And what you're trying to do, whoa, spike strip, spike strip. Nice, there it is, folks. I'm going to go ahead and pull the throttle jack gently. I'm now taking my stick, and I'm basically pulling it all the way back. And when you do use brakes on grass, don't. It's too dangerous. But because this is a video and you folks have all sorts of things to do today, I will use a little tiny bit of brakes to slow us down. And you can see just how smooth this aircraft handles that ground there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come swing off the grass. Remember, whenever you're on grass, keep the plane moving. Keep the plane moving if you can. When you sit there, you're going to be sucking all sorts of angry rocks and stuff into the propeller, and that kind of goes badly for you. So just keep it moving. Keep it moving. Oh, boy. This grass is a lot stickier when you don't need to go. And, of course, quite illegally here, I'm just going to kind of power onto the runway. So there's another type of landing we'll look at. And that's going to be a landing when something doesn't go right. Now, one of the things that makes a Cirrus great and not great is, as I was mentioning previously, its incredible aerodynamics. So let's go ahead and get ourselves back up in the air here and go like that. Same procedure as last time. And again, if you've been keeping up with your trim adjustments, this plane, like I said, is an absolute peach of a plane. And again, it's very, very, I have no idea what's going on with our power planes over there. I'm sorry, I got to comment on that. What is that? But anyway, if you've been keeping up with us so far, you probably have a pretty good idea of like kind of how this thing works now, especially over here in 12. It is different in Flight Sim. Now, Flight Sim, everything's much more damp. This is very much a very, very raw kind of handling. Again, we'll get on the trim there. And what we're going to do is we're going to do an engine out landing. The reason I like it with this plane is because there's a lot of little things the plane does to kind of make it a little bit easier for us to do the approach. But we're going to stack the deck as much as we can. Because again, this thing is still, it's a little bit of a handful when you've lost that engine. Because that extra drag that's going to be coming off the propeller is something else. All right, so we're going to cheat as much as we can for this exercise here. One thing we'll do is we'll stay close to the airport. There we go. Lovely little Cirrus approach here. Swing over to the right. And again, we're keeping it right around 100 knots, which is good. Go ahead and pull that. We'll square ourselves off a little bit here. All right, swing to the downwind. Yeah, a little bit more, like I said. Yeah, this is a pretty lightweight airplane here. Now, one thing I have to do, before I forget, click. There we go. Oh, don't forget to do that. Again, we've been burning fuel out of that one tank. I don't even want to know how many gallons of fuel we've sucked out. Actually, we could look. It's probably quite a bit. I've done 4.9 gallons. Not bad. All right, so we're going to be doing an engine out this time. The short field, the short landing is what I like to call this one. So I'm going to go ahead and bring down my click of flaps like I always do, and I'll be a little bit silly this time. I'll let the extra lift just carry me back up to 1,000 feet. Gosh, that feels so wrong. All right, we'll go ahead and set ourselves up for 90 knots. And for the purpose of this exercise, what we'll do is we'll cut our engine out when we get to beam the numbers, just to kind of keep it down. This aircraft slips perfectly fine. There's no weirdness to it. There's no drama to it. But like I said, once we really start getting this thing going down, it's going to drop like a rock, especially because of that big, big propeller up in the front there. All right, looking there, just about a beam. That looks pretty good to me. Stand by for engine out. All right, engine out. Here we go. All right, first thing we want to do is we want to keep as close to the airport as possible. Go ahead and pull your nose down. We're looking for about 80 knots. Pull that plane around. Nothing matters right now. The only thing matters is stay close to that airport. There we go. So what I'm going to do is you'll notice this thing is dropping like a rock. As a matter of fact, we can't make it to the runway. So this aircraft, like I was mentioning, even though it is incredibly efficient, even at 0 throttle, you can see it starting to windmill a little bit. This thing is barely hanging on right now. We are on the edge of a crash situation because we have so much drag. Speaking of drag, when you're coming for the landing, if you do want to use that last click of flaps, at this point we have plenty of flaps to safely land. If you put them down, you will find yourself no energy. Watch this. Flaps come down. And we're going to have a very, very, very loud landing. Actually, this isn't too bad. Easy, easy. And we're down, just like that. Did you notice how fast the plane drops? Now, you're sitting there going, wasn't there another way to solve this? Yeah, we got a cap's parachute for that. But the reality is, it is always better to fly the plane, if you can, That's really for emergencies, assuming you have something safe to drop the plane onto. Speaking of which, you want to see something fun? Oh no, we're going to crash. I know I did this in the last video, but you had to see the last kind of Cirrus landing, right? You know, one of the things I love about this is we're fine, like I said. We're coming down pretty fast, though. And if you look out the window here, what do we have here? We have 1,500 feet per minute. So I'm going to go to third person. Look at this. We're here. I'm going to put the parachute away. So hopefully this video encourages you to check out this airplane. It is, I can't get over how nice this plane is. As you can see, it's a little quirky, but if you kind of get past the quirks, it's fabulous. It's so fast. It's so easy to handle. It's got that silly thing. I don't think I've ever seen landing gear stretch that far before. Again, we struck the propeller when we did that, so we'd be done with this plane. But it is awesome. It handles well, nice and quirky. It's everything I enjoy in an airplane. Enjoy.